Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the Self in all beings. We begin today's Satsang with a prayer by Srimati Sapna Ganesh. This will be followed by the chanting of Muktaka trayam by Sri Nandakumarji.
दक्षिणामूर्तिसारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमां रमणाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये आङ्गिकं भुवनं यस्य वाचिकं सर्ववाङ्मयम् आहार्यं चन्द्रतारादि तं नमः सात्विकं शिवम् ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय. Namo Ramana to everyone.
Ekam aksharam Rudi nirantaram Bhasate swayam Likyate Hridaya kuhara madhye Kevalam Brahmamatram Yaham Maham Iti Sakshat Atmarupena Bhakti Hrudi Vishamanasa Swami Chinvata Majjata Pavana Chalanaro Atmanishto Bhavatvam Deham Pranmaya Jadatmakam Aham Buddhirnatasyastyako Maham Tattata Bhava Shukti Samaye Siddhatma Sadbhava Drishtatmanishtatmana Soham Spurtitaya Arunachala Shiva Purna Vibhavati Swayam Soham Spurtitaya Arunachala Shiva Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Now we will have the chanting of Upadesa Saram by Uma Shripati. I think her line is got disconnected. I will do the chanting. Yes, she's here. We'll have the chanting of Upadesa Saram by Uma Shripati.
Namo Ramana. कर्तुराज्ञया प्राप्यते फलं कर्म किं परं कर्म तज्जडं कृतिमहो दधौ पतनकारणं फलमशाश्वतं गतिनिरोधकम् ईश्वरार्पितं नेच्छया कृतं चित्तशोधकं मुक्तिसाधकं कायवाङ्मना कार्यमुत्तमं पूजनं जपश्चिन्तनं क्रमात् जगतैषधी युक्तसेवनम् अष्टमूर्तिदेवपूजनम् उत्तमस्तवादुच्चमन्दता चित्तजं जप ध्यानमुत्तमम् आज्यधारया स्रोतसा समम् सरलचिन्तनं विरलतः परं वेदभावनात् सोऽहमित्यसौ भावनाभिदा पावनीमता भावशून्यसद्भावसुस्थिति भावनाबलात् भक्तिरुत्तमा हृत्स्थले मना स्वस्थता क्रिया भक्तियोगबोधाश्च निश्चितम्. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We will now have 3 songs from Ramananjali Sangeetam. The first one will be presented by Srimati V. Radha. The second song will be presented by Dr. Pratibha Sundaresh. The third song will be presented by Revathi Shankar.
Namo Ramana to all. Today I have selected a song written by Sri C. N. Shastri, and the music is by Sri L. Krishnan. Sakalagrahabala Neene Ramana Sakalagrahabala Neene Ramana Nikila Hridayane Namo Namo Sakalagrahabala Neene Ramana Nikila Hridayane Namo Namo Sakalagrahabala Neene Ramana. Sakala Shastragana Sarabodhisida Sakala Shastragana Sarabodhisida Sakala Shastragana Sarabodhisida Khalanka Mahimane Namo Namo Sakala Shastragana Sarabodhisida Khalanka Mahimane Namo Namo Sakalagrahabala Neene Ramana Nikila Hridayane Namo Namo Sakalagrahabala Neene Ramana. Nanaarimbudam ತಿಳಿಸಲು ಬಂದಿಹಂ ಮಾನವರೂಪಿ ಅರುಣಾಚಲ ತಿಳಿಸಲು ಬಂದಿಹ ಮಾನವರೂಪಿ ಅರುಣಾಚಲನಾಗಿಹ ನಾನಾ ಪರಿಯಲಿ ಪಾಲಿಪ ನಿನಗೆ ನಾನಾ ಪರಿಯಲಿ ಪಾಲಿಪ ನಿನಗೆ ಶ್ರೀನಾರಾಯಣ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ಶ್ರೀ ವೆಂಕಟೇಶ್ವರ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ 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 ಶ್ರೀ ವೆಂಕಟೇಶ್ವರ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ಶ್ರೀ ವೆಂಕಟೇಶ್ವರ ನಮೋ ನಮೋ ಸಕಲ ಗ್ರಹ ಬಲ ನೀನೇ ರಮಣ. ನಮೋ ರಮಣ.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. This composition is taken from the 5th and 6th verse of Navamanimalai, Arunachala Navamanimalai, composed by Bhagwan, and it's a Kannada translation by Dr. N.S. Lakshmi Narayan Bhatta, music by Upendra Kumar in Raga Shivranjani. Here Bhagwan says, Lord, who are consciousness itself and reigning over Arunachala, please forgive all the grievous wrongdoings of this poor self, and by your gracious glance, save me from being lost in the dreary waste. You are the universal mother that need to take care of me, your child. Lord Arunachala, you are called the killer of karma. Then how can the mighty and invisible karma creep into my mind, sheltering under your feet? ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದ ಮಹಿಮೆ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದವನೇ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದ ಮಹಿಮೆ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದವನೇ ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದ ಮಹಿಮೆ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದವನೇ ಬಡಪಾಯಿಯಾದೆನ್ನ ತಪ್ಪ ಕ್ಷಮಿಸು ಬಡಪಾಯಿಯಾದೆನ್ನ ತಪ್ಪ ಕ್ಷಮಿಸು ಕರಿಯ ಮಳೆ ಮುಗಿಲಂತೆ ದಯೆ ಸುರಿಸಿ ನೋಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಕರಿಯ ಮಳೆ ಮುಗಿಲಂತೆ ದಯೆ ಸುರಿಸಿ ನೋಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಶೂನ್ಯದಿಂದೆನ್ನ ಉದ್ಧರಿಸಿ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸು ಶೂನ್ಯದಿಂದೆನ್ನ ಉದ್ಧರಿಸಿ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸು ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದ ಮಹಿಮೆ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದವನೇ ನೀನು ಕೈ ಬಿಡಲು ಗತಿಯಾರು ನನಗೆ ಮಾಯೆಯನ್ನು ದಾಟಿ ತಡೆ ಹಿಡಿವೆ ಹೇಗೆ ನೀನು ಕೈ ಬಿಡಲು ಗತಿಯಾರು ನನಗೆ ಮಾಯೆಯನ್ನು ದಾಟಿ ತಡ ಹಿಡಿವೆ ಹೇಗೆ ತಾಯಿ ಕರಗುವ ರೀತಿ ಎಳೆ ಮಗುವಿಗೆ ತಾಯಿ ಕರಗುವ ರೀತಿ ಎಳೆ ಮಗುವಿಗೆ ಕರಗುವವರಾರು ಮರುಗುವವರಾರು ಕರಗುವವರಾರು ಮರುಗುವವರಾರು ತಾಯಾಗಿ ನೀ ನನ್ನ ಎತ್ತಿ ಕಾಪಾಡು ತಾಯಾಗಿ ನೀ ನನ್ನ ಎತ್ತಿ ಕಾಪಾಡು ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ ಅರುಣಾಚಲದ ಮಹಿಮೆ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದವನೇ
ಕಾಮಮರ್ಧನನೆಂದು ಹೊಗಳುವರು ನಿನ್ನ, ಆದರೀ ಸಂದೇಹ ಬಾಧಿಸಿದೆ ನನ್ನ. ಕಾಮಮರ್ಧನನೆಂದು ಹೊಗಳುವರು ನಿನ್ನ, ಆದರೀ ಸಂದೇಹ ಬಾಧಿಸಿದೆ ನನ್ನ. ನೀ ಕಾಮ ವೈರಿಯನೇ ನಿನ್ನ ಭಕ್ತನನು, ಈ ಕಾಮ ವೈರಿಯನೇ ನಿನ್ನ ಭಕ್ತನನು ಬಾಧಿಸುವ ಹೇಗೆ, ಪೀಡಿಸುವ ಹೇಗೆ, ಬಾಧಿಸುವ ಹೇಗೆ, ಪೀಡಿಸುವ ಹೇಗೆ. ಬಲಶಾಲಿಯಾದರು ಆ ಕಾಮ ಹೀಗೆ, ಬಲಶಾಲಿಯಾದರು ಆ ಕಾಮ ಹೀಗೆ. ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ, ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ, ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ. ಅರುಣಾಚಲದ ಮಹಿಮೆ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದವನೇ, ಅರುಣಾಚಲದ ಮಹಿಮೆ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದವನೇ. ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ, ಜ್ಞಾನವೇ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಎನಿಸಿದವನೇ. ಅರುಣಾಚಲದ ಮಹಿಮೆ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದವನೇ, ಅರುಣಾಚಲದ ಮಹಿಮೆ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದವನೇ. ಓಂ ನಮೋ ಭಗವತೆ ಶ್ರೀರಮಣಾಯ.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. 21st September 2023, we celebrated the 100 years of Muruganar Swami coming to Bhagavan Shri Ramana Maharshi. 21st September 1923 was when Muruganar Swami came to Ramanashram, and that wonderful meeting between Ramana Maharshi and Muruganar Swami happened. So we are celebrating the centenary of Muruganar Swami coming to Ramanashram. So I will present to you a song written by Muruganar Swami. He has written more than 30,000 songs on Bhagavan Shri Ramana Maharshi. Bhagavan himself told him, write like Manikavachakar. Are you a poet who can write like Manikavachakar? Right. So Muruganar Swami's poetry is such a profound poetry. It is in highest Tamil language. It is so wonderful, and we all know how Muruganar Swami would literally melt, his body would melt when he heard the name Ramana. And there is one incident which really moved me a lot, where the poetry used to just overflow from him. It used to come out like a waterfall. It used to come out like a spring without any gap. He had a slate and a chalk, and he used to write one poetry. Even before he could just imagine that, he rubbed that and he wrote another poetry. Like that, we have lost many of his poetry because there was nobody to record it, document it. But the documented poetry itself have become more than 30,000 songs, and so many songs have been, many songs have been recorded. Ramana Sannidhi Murai and other songs have been recorded by Ramananjali. All are so beautiful, so wonderful. Even if we meditate on one song, it takes us to a different world. I would like to present one of my favorite songs. Of course, I will present it in Kannada. The translation of it is by Dr. Lakshminarayana Bhatta. The music is by H.K. Narayana. ನನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ಬೇರಿಳಿಸಿ ನಿಂತೆ ನೀನು, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ತೊರೆದು ನಾನು. ನನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ಬೇರಿಳಿಸಿ ನಿಂತೆ ನೀನು, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ತೊರೆದು ನಾನು ನನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ಬೇರಿಳಿಸಿ ನಿಂತೆ ರಮಣ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ತೊರೆದು ನಾನು ಚಿನ್ನದಿಂದೇಳುವುದು ಬಣ್ಣದಾಭರಣ, ಆಗಲೂ ಚಿನ್ನ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರುವುದು. ಚಿನ್ನದಿಂದೇಳುವುದು ಬಣ್ಣದಾಭರಣ, ಆಗಲೂ ಚಿನ್ನ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರುವುದು. ಕರಗಿಸಲು ಅಳಿಯುವುದು ಆಭರಣ ರೂಪ, ಆಗಲೂ ಹೊನ್ನು ಹಾಗೆ ಇರುವುದು. ಕರಗಿಸಲು ಅಳಿಯುವುದು ಆಭರಣ ರೂಪ, ಆಗಲೂ ಹೊನ್ನು ಹಾಗೆ ಇರುವುದು. ನನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ಬೇರಿಳಿಸಿ ನಿಂತೆ ನೀನು, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ತೊರೆದು ನಾನು ನನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ಬೇರಿಳಿಸಿ ನಿಂತೆ ರಮಣ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ತೊರೆದು ನಾನು ಸುತ್ತ ಕಾಣುವ ಲೋಕ ನನ್ನಿಂದಲೇ ಎದ್ದು ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿಯೇ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮೈಯಳಿವುದು. ಸುತ್ತ ಕಾಣುವ ಲೋಕ ನನ್ನಿಂದಲೇ ಎದ್ದು ನನ್ನಲ್ಲಿಯೇ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮೈಯಳಿವುದು. ರೂಪಗಳು ಅಳಿದರೂ ನಾನೆಂಬ ಪ್ರಜ್ಞೆ ನಿತ್ಯವೂ ಸತ್ಯವೂ ಆಗಿರುವುದು. ರೂಪಗಳು ಅಳಿದರೂ ನಾನೆಂಬ ಪ್ರಜ್ಞೆ ನಿತ್ಯವೂ ಸತ್ಯವೂ ಆಗಿರುವುದು. ನನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ಬೇರಿಳಿಸಿ ನಿಂತೆ ನೀನು, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ತೊರೆದು ನಾನು ನನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ಬೇರಿಳಿಸಿ ನಿಂತೆ ರಮಣ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ತೊರೆದು ನಾನು ನನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ಬೇರಿಳಿಸಿ ನಿಂತೆ ರಮಣ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಲಿ ನಿನ್ನ ತೊರೆದು ನಾನು Namo Ramana. We will now have the reading and sharing from the book Bhagavan Ramana, Resplendent Sun, Angles of Vision by Sri Nandakumarji.
Namo Ramana. In this, the book reading segment of our Satsang, we are to repeat the last week's reading. There were some technical problems in the reading of it. So we are going through the final article in this work, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, The Resplendent Sun, Angles of Vision, by our founder president, Shri A.R. Natarajanji. We are to read again Mahanirvana of Shri Bhagavan, an article contributed by Professor K. Swaminathan sir, who has been our founder president's Bandhu in Bhagavan's Marga, and he has started the Madras Satsang, as he will mention in this article. We go into the article Mahanirvana of Shri Bhagavan. We are meeting today under the shadow of a great calamity, the greatest that could have befallen us, the passing away of our master Shri Ramana Maharshi. And though it is exactly a month now since it has happened, we have hardly recovered yet from the shock of that blow, the poignancy of grief, the poignancy of such grief. It was no small thing, no ordinary good fortune, that it had been given to us to move in close contact for several years with the most remarkable man that ever trod this earth in recent times, one who though he lived in our times, was a direct linear descendant of the Vedic sages and Upanishadic seers, one who was the Vedas personified, one who was an outstanding example of the type described in our scriptures as Astitva Prajna, Trigunaatita, Jivan Mukta, one human to all appearance, and yet one with the divine, by reason of that attainment of jnana, which only, according to Gita and all our scriptures, burns out all karma and takes one beyond the endless sea of births and deaths into that heaven of mukti, bliss, liberation, where all is peace and blessedness, and that even while one is yet in this earth. Now, if he was only this, a great walking monument of spiritual perfection, standing aloof and apart on the heights of jnana, inaccessible to common folks like me, who know little or nothing of the spiritual life, it might have been easier for us to bear this separation. But as you know, he was more than a great spiritual giant. He was the highest master that one could get on earth, who kept up the best traditions of gurus in this country. He was not only our teacher, but our father, mother, friend, one who loved us whether we deserved it or not, whether we were able to make use of it or not. Among the thousands who became his devotees, there were all sorts of and conditions of men, with varying degrees of evolution on the spiritual path. All of them got whatever they needed and went satisfied that Bhagavan was looking after them. In this great crowd of his followers, there were certainly some who could establish mental or spiritual contact with him, and who, wherever they were, and whether they could obtain physical contact with him or not, were still satisfied and sure that his influence was theirs to draw upon whenever they wanted. To such, the trial that has come upon us all in the shape of Bhagavan's physical separation from us may not be hard to bear. But there was a very big class of followers to whom it was a real solace to run up to Bhagavan for physical company, and to whom the mental and spiritual contact, though none the less important or effective, seemed to be in some unaccountable way dependent on his physical frame. Whatever our troubles, whether they were ills of the body, financial worries, family quarrels and complications, official oppressions or injustices, or any of the 1,001 things that have been devised by the desire to harass people, some of us had only one way of dealing with them all whenever they became unendurable. We just ran up to Bhagavan and basked in his presence, and somehow the problem had been solved. The position eased, or anyhow, you did not seem to be worried anymore. Where and to whom can we run up now? Where and to whom can we run up now? Gone is that beaming smile with which you used to be welcomed into his presence. Gone is that kind mood which you used to take for an assurance that Bhagavan has taken cognizance of you, of your matter, and all will be well with you thereafter. With what affection would he not sometimes inquire about your journey? With what motherly solicitude would he not ask you if you have had something to eat, and if not, direct you first to feed the inner man and then come to the hall? With what sympathy would he not inquire about any who may be ailing in your family and about whom you may have written to him already. Those who have had such experiences, and their numbers is legion, find the cruel separation of this Mahanirvana all too hard to bear. Though several months of relentless and memorable disease had prepared us in a way for the inevitable end, when the blow actually fell, we felt, to quote Tennyson, like the unhappy bark that strikes by night a craggy shell, and staggers blindly ere she sink. Tennyson is writing in memoriam of a young friend whom he loses to death, and it is a huge poem of which a small portion where the devotees here are referred to as an old boat, unhappy bark. Already bark is a wood out of which the boat is made. The boat is in deep trouble, and what it has done, because of Bhagavan's illness, it is already in great suffering. And now that the Mahanirvana has come, it is like that boat has gone and crashed into a craggy shell, where the mountain is jaggedly piercing the boat's underbelly and staggers. The boat is staggering here and there before she sinks. That is the kind of feeling that Swaminathan sir, the great professor of English, is quoting here from Tennyson, the feeling of the devotees. To borrow a phrase from the same source, Tennyson, we have been widowed, crying, my Bhagavan, our Bhagavan. In the same poem, the loss of that friend who is in one sense a protector. So the widow term is also used by Tennyson. And all the devotees being the married to that one Purusha, it is like being widowed, says the professor. All joy and beauty have gone out of our life, along with all sense of security. We have become orphans all of a sudden. To many, Bhagavan was not merely a guru, but father and mother in one. Not merely as a conventional or polite way of expressing his regard for us, but literally, without any exaggeration, he was the mother and father. For myself, I have had the best affection for him, more than I have had for any relatives or others in this world. I used to address him in all my letters as Ammayappa, which is such a beautiful word in Tamil to convey the idea of one who combines in himself the attributes of father and mother. And I used to subscribe myself as Ramana say, that is Ramana's child. And how did he react to this? Was he indifferent how I addressed him? Far from it. Did he leave me to imagine that he was taking no special notice of my queer way of addressing him? If anybody came to him and sang before him any Tamil song in which the word Ammayappa occurred, he will turn around to see me, to see if I am there. And his eyes will be asking me, are you attending? Are you listening? Here is another who is using your name. In 100 such ways, he has so endeared himself to so many of us that when we find he is no longer at Tiruvannamalai, for us to run up there and brace ourselves up, or as we used to say, with Bhagavan's approval, charge our battery afresh with his current, we feel utterly lost, immersed in gloom, literally not knowing which way to turn. In this state of mind, it occurred to me, it would be really something of a consolation, the best consolation that could be had under the circumstances. If I can come across other devotees of Bhagavan, others whom I have come to regard as fellow members with me in Bhagavan's great family, fellow devotees who would remind me of Bhagavan, with whom I can exchange confidences and share experiences, whose company would be an added pleasure even for thinking of Bhagavan and worshipping him. In fact, the company of those who have equal cause for grief with you and who have been dear to you as much as for them, this is a great consoling factor to have their company. In fact, we are in one such company now. In one sense, remembering Bhagavan's departing, in another sense, gathering to remind ourselves of that light that Bhagavan has given us. This is the urge, that is the human experience. This is the urge that made me move in the direction of taking steps to start a center in Madras, where Bhagavan's devotees may meet once a week or oftener, console each other in the first place, and in the next place, endeavor by various means to keep alive within themselves the light that has been kindled in them by that departed master. I'll read that again. The purpose of this satsangs is highlighted by that great devotee. This is the urge that made me move in the direction of taking steps to start a center in Madras, where Bhagavan's devotees may meet once a week or oftener and console each other in the first place, and in the next place, endeavor by various means to keep alive within themselves the light that has been kindled in them by that departed master. Whether the new center or sabha should also labor for the propagation of Bhagavan's ashram at Tiruvannamalai is frankly out of my calculation at the present. If Bhagavan desires that this small center should, in the fullness of time and as it matures, take upon itself in his judgment and under his guidance such ambitious tasks, by all means let such developments come. But as for me, give me at once some sabha or center, however modest and humble, where I can meet old devotees of Bhagavan, feel as if I was once again in the old atmosphere, and do something in common with them by talk, reminiscent devotional song, or silent meditation, or all of these in turn, to keep alive and develop the plant of spirituality that Bhagavan has planted in me. When Professor is saying me, he is referring to the man, to the human being, where Bhagavan has planted this light of spirituality. That is what we are trying to kindle and keep going. I'll read the last sentence again, and then we'll come to the end of this work. But as for me, give me at once some sabha or center, however modest and humble, where I can meet old devotees of Bhagavan, feel as if I was once again in the old atmosphere, and do something in common with them by talk, reminiscent devotional song, or silent meditation, or all of these in turn, to keep alive and develop the plant of spirituality that Bhagavan has planted in all of us. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramana. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We will now have the session of self-enquiry by Sri Dileep Simha.
Namo Ramana. ध्यायेत् शारदचन्द्रसुन्दरमुखम् ताम्रारविन्देक्षणम् भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमात्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानन्दरसानुभूति विवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणीश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितं ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षादात्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामच्युतव पवनचलनरोधात् आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। Namo Ramana. We commence today's evening Atma Vicharam by listening to Bhagavan's Upadesham. I'll be reading his Upadesham from the book Guru Vachaka Kovai, from the chapter Meditation on the Truth, and the topic is the destruction of the ego. Verse 858. Only by your death and not by any other means can you enter the world of liberation, the undivided Atmaswarupa, the space of consciousness. If it is then asked how to die and cease to exist, the answer is, it is only by putting to death the source of bondage, the delusion of I and mine. However, killing the body is wrong. Let me repeat Bhagavan's words. Only by your death and not by any other means can you enter the world of liberation, the undivided Atmaswarupa, the space of consciousness. If it is then asked how to die and cease to exist, the answer is, it is only by putting to death the source of bondage, the delusion of I and mine. However, killing the body is wrong. Here, Bhagavan, as the example was given to us by Revathi, of the gold becoming the ornament, the killing of the idea of one being an ornament and not gold is what is being called upon. We take this name and form to be I, and then associated everything with it as mine. And here is Bhagavan saying, for all of that, what is the substrate? By inquiring, whom is this? Who am I? And when we truly inquire, we find all of this idea of the name and the form and the thoughts are all something which are very unreal, which come and go, have no permanency. That which doesn't come and go, the self, that Bhagavan, that truth which alone is the source of liberation, is the source of contentment. And it is, Bhagavan calls it as the pure space of consciousness also here. So, to die to this separate idea, to this notion or the reality that we give, we attribute to this state of division as an individual with a name and form, and then further hold on to few things as mine. This whole reality that we attribute to this, when it ceases, by recognizing that this is merely a transitory phase, like a dream in which many things appear real, but upon waking, it is not found to be. Likewise, when we inquire to whom is this, who am I, and recognize our reality as the self, that which never comes or goes, which is the pure space of undivided consciousness, where nothing ever happened, until we wake up to our reality. And when we do so, we find all of this, my I and mine, to be nothing but equivalent to a dream. And upon waking, we find it to be unreal. Same way, we wake up to that truth, says Bhagavan. And therefore, this Atma Vichara, which has been given to us by Bhagavan, lovingly, to say that all of us, and Krishna says that wherever my devotees sing and join together, I am present. I am present in the sense that pure existence that He is in the heart of all of us, as the gold is in everything, in all ornaments. So Bhagavan is asking us to get back to that one reality, that firmament, that truth which alone is the pure existence consciousness, by inquiring every thought, which is all transcendental, which is all temporary in nature, which comes and goes, by inquiring to whom is this, who am I? No matter if the thoughts are good, bad, ugly, or even spiritual, we need to diligently inquire, says Bhagavan, to whom is this, and recognize it is for me. And therefore, this idea of I is still there. And further inquire, who am I? What do I refer to as I? Or where from this I thought rises within me? And dive within to recognize the existence, the pure existence, which is Bhagavan Himself, and remain and be identified with that. And by repeatedly doing so, Bhagavan assures that the mind will gain enough strength to be one with it. Like the ornament understands that it is gold and no more is worried about it being an ornament. It recognizes clearly it was always gold through and through. With the immense grace of Bhagavan, with which alone we have come to this most direct path, for the next 10 minutes, let us practice Atma Vichara. Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We will now have sharing of Ramana Chatvarimshat by Sri Ujwal Jagadeesh.
Verses Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. We have been meditating on the verses of Ramana Chatvarimshat written by Ganapati Muni and which has been compiled and titled Ramana Chatvarimshat by Ramana himself. Ganapati Muni, in this set of verses, he describes Ramana as the one whose very nature is compassion, and he has taken this beautiful, splendorous, glorious form and has come into our lives. And he is in that state of supreme bliss because he has completely swallowed up the mind. And he continues to say, "O Ramana, you are a cook, you are a chef who has come by the grace of the Supreme. न करुणा गुण रमणा तव विदाम्पते रमणा हृदय तेजस रमणा सहज वैवते न करुणा गुणस्तव विदाम्पते हृदय तेजस सहज वैवते तव तनुर्ज्वलत्यनग विद्युत तव दृगातता लसति भास्वता कबलितं मन स्तव विभो हृदा त्वमसि सन्ततं विलसितो मुदा भुवन भूपतेर्भगवत कृते भवसि पाचको यमवतां पते भुवन भूपतेर्भगवत कृते भवसि पाचको यमवतां पते करुणे गुणवल्ला रमणा निनगे ಒಡೆಯನೇ ರಮಣ ಹೃದಯದಿ ಹೊಳೆಯುವ ರಮಣ ಸಹಜ ಸ್ವರೂಪವೇ ರಮಣ ಕರುಣೆ ಗುಣವಲ್ಲ ನಿನಗೆ ಒಡೆಯನೇ ಹೃದಯದಿ ಹೊಳೆಯುವ ಸಹಜ ಸ್ವರೂಪವೇ ನಿನ್ನ ಮಲ ದೇಹವು ಮಿಂಚಂತೆ ಹೊಳೆವುದು ನಿನ್ನನಂತ ನೋಟವು ರವಿಯಂತೆ ಮಿರುಗುವುದು ಪ್ರಭುವೆ ನಿನ್ನಯ ಮನವ ಹೃದಯ ನುಂಗಿತು ಆನಂದದಿ ಹೊಳೆಯುತ್ತ ನೀನಿರುವೆ ಎಂದಿಗೂ ಭುವನದೊಡೆಯನಾದ ಭಗವಂತ ಸೃಜಿಸಿದ ಪಾಚಕ ನೀನೇ ಸಂಯಮದ ಅರಸನೇ ಭುವನದೊಡೆಯನಾದ ಭಗವಂತ ಸೃಜಿಸಿದ ಪಾಚಕ ನೀನೇ ಸಂಯಮದ ಅರಸನೇ. Ganapati Muni says in this verse, "O Ramana, you are a cook, a pachaka, who has been created by that supreme Arunachala, who is the Lord of the universe and who is the Lord of the mankind, and he has created you and sent us to you because you are a great cook." And he says, Yamavatam Pate. I used to understand that Yamavatam Pate is you are none other than that very Shiva, the Lord of Yama. Kala Kala you are. But in the translation it is told Yama means self-control. And Ramana, you are the very embodiment. You are the Lord of self-control. And you are a great cook. When we say Ramana, Ganesh and Anna in his Ramana Periya Puranam says, Ramana was very particular about only two things. One is self-enquiry. He used to say that every devotee should turn within and know himself. That is very important duty one should do. And the second thing is that nobody should go unfed from the ashram. So as soon as the visitors came, the first question he used to ask is, have you had your lunch? Please join us for lunch. Or they used to be sent to the dining hall to have food first. So Ramana, when devotees asked Ramana, why is that? Why do you compel all the devotees to go and have their food in the ashram? Ramana then replied, I do that because I know what is hunger. Ramana, in the earlier days, even through his journey to Arunachala, had to undergo the suffering of hunger. So maybe that's why he told, I know the hunger. So he insisted that the devotees would be fed. But although he knew hunger, there is a great one who told that some people eat to live, but there are others who live only to eat. But Ramana was the embodiment of that supreme who used to eat only to live. So we see that on the slopes of Arunachala hill, when the devotees used to beg for bhiksha and come with only rice, Ramana used to say, mix hot water into this rice and make it into a gruel, and let us all have a cup full of this gruel. And one of the devotees told, can we not beg for some salt so that it adds some taste to this gruel? Ramana got a little stern and he told, today you will ask for salt, then tomorrow you will ask for some dal, then you may ask for more, you may ask for jaggery, then you may ask for paisam itself. So be happy and be content with what is given by Arunachala, because that is the prasadam. So Ramana, although was very, very diligent in satiating the hunger, at the same time he reminded that the eating is only to have this body, protect this body, which the purpose of having this, donning this body, is to know yourself, to understand the divine presence within, to understand that we are divine is the very purpose of donning this body and taking care of this body. And Ramana was a great cook. And we listen to this story of once what happened. There was a lot of brinjal which was brought to the ashram, and lot of dishes from brinjal was done, and all the stalks of the brinjal were segregated and they had kept that to throw it away. Bhagavan told, Junior, you should not throw away these stalks. We can create a new dish. So he told one of the devotees to cook these in the fire. And the devotee was trying to cook it for a long time and it was not cooking at all. And Ramana told, continue to cook. If you keep cooking, it will get baked and it will be apt to be given to all the devotees. And it was cooked for a long time. Then Ramana told, now add some salt to it. Then a little salt was added to that dish, and soon after that there was this very beautiful fragrance from that dish, and the dish was ready to be served, and it was served to all, starting from Bhagavan and all the devotees who were tasting it. What is this new vegetable? It seems to be so tasty. And the devotees revealed to them it was the stalk, the stem of that brinjal that was made into this beautiful dish. So Ramana was a great cook, and the devotees who helped in the kitchen, they had Ramana around them in that small kitchen, earlier kitchen. Ramana used to sit in the center of the kitchen and he used to instruct all of them to do the work, and by giving them instruction how to cook, he used to give the greatest spiritual instructions to each one of them and making them ripe so that they become apt to be offered to that Supreme Shiva as Naivedyam. Such was the grace of Ramana. So Ramana has come into our lives to cook us and make us ripe and make us very, very apt to be offered to Arunachala, who is the Supreme, who is the Bhuvana Bhupati. To him, to make us apt to be offered to him, Ramana has come into our lives in this beautiful form. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We will now have Atma Bodham, which will be the manana of Atma Bodham will be shared with us by Sri Venkatesh Deshpande ji.
Ramana. Oh. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviram Karvavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Jnanamulam Guru Murte, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Vakyam, Mokshamulam Guru Kripa, Mokshamulam Guru Kripa. Ramana. We're doing manana on Atma Bodha, and last do a little recap of what did we did in the last satsang. We did the verse number 21. Owing to non-discrimination, the qualities and activities of the body and sense organs are superimposed on the stainless Atman, which is existence, consciousness, absolute, just as color and the like are attributed to the sky. Atman is distinct and separate from the matter layers. It has none of the properties of the matter. However, when Atman functions through the gross and subtle body, it manifests all existence, knowledge, respectively. Those who lack the sense of discrimination superimpose the properties of these bodies upon the Atman. This is the key point. Those who lack the sense of discrimination superimpose the properties of the bodies upon the Atman. All internal and external activities, such as physical perceptions, actions, mental feelings, and intellectual thoughts, belong to the gross and subtle bodies. So, the non-discrimination, superimposition of the properties and the actions of material bodies upon the pure self is like superimposing various attributes such as color, concavity, mistiness, dirtiness, etc. to the sky. The sky has none of these qualities. Neither it is affected by such traits superimposed upon it. The intelligent understand this similarly. A man of discrimination realizes that Atman is pure and never contaminated by the qualities of matter associating with it. So today we will be doing manana on verse number 22, and I request Sapna to kindly chant the verses, please.
Yes, sir.
अज्ञानात्मानसोपदेहे कर्तृत्वादीनि चात्मनि क्लप्यन्तेऽम्बुगते चन्द्रे चलनादि यथाम्बसः अज्ञानात्मानसोपदेहे कर्तृत्वादीनि चात्मनि क्लप्यन्तेऽम्बुगते चन्द्रे चलनादि यथाम्बसः. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sapna. The agency of action which belongs to the mental equipment are attributed through ignorance to self, just as movement, etc., of the water is attributed to the moon reflected in it. The agency of action is the sense of doership. The attitude of I am the doer, Kratritva bhavana, it relates to the activities of perception and action. It belongs to the realm of the mind. The agency of enjoyment is the sense of enjoyership, the attitude that I am the enjoyer, bhokatva bhavana. It belongs to the intellect, which is indicated in the next verse. The mind receives and responds to the stimulus of the external world. As a result of one's transactions, the intellect recognizes joy and sorrow. These functions belong to the mind and intellect, and not to the self. In ignorance, you presume the self to be the doer and enjoyer. You believe the self is the doer because of your identification with the mind. The moon reflected in a sheet of water acquires the properties of the reflecting medium. When the water is dirty, the reflected moon is dirty. When the water is clear, the reflection is clear. In all these cases, the moon above remains ever steady and unaffected by the qualities of the water. I'll read that again. When the water is clear, the reflection is clear. In all these cases, the moon above remains ever steady and unaffected by the qualities of the water. Similarly, the self reflected in the mind is you, the individual. When the mind is dull, you are dull. When the mind is agitated, you are agitated. When the mind is pure, you are pure. The dullness, tamas, agitation, rajas, and purity, sattva, are properties belonging to the mind and not the self. The dullness, tamas, agitations, the rajas, and purity, sattva, are properties belonging to the mind and not the self. In ignorance, you attribute these qualities of the mind to the immaculate self. The agitations and purify the thoughts in the mind. The reflecting medium is then perfected. In such a perfect medium, the Supreme Self within reveals itself to you. The self-realized persons brought about this transformation in themselves. They unveiled the divinity within them. The secret of spiritual evolution, therefore, is quietening your mind and purifying your thoughts. So Bhagavan is beautifully saying in these verses, the moon does not, when its reflection falls on the water, then what? If you go ever in front of a lake in the evening, and the moon is perfect, you can see the round moon, and then you throw a stone at it inside the lake, and then what happens? You see the ripples. But is the ripples there in the moon? When you look up, the moon is perfect. There are no ripples. If you take a little child and what it will do when the ripples are there in the lake, the natural thing the child will do is look up at the moon and say, "Hey, how is the ripples coming? Is the ripples coming from the moon?" No, the ripples are actually in the lake itself. So that's what it is. Bhagavan says we have to use discrimination, dispassion to be able to know what is Satya and what is Nitya and what is Anitya. And that's why he beautifully says, the secret of spiritual evolution, therefore, is quietening your mind. Be still. Jesus says, be still and know that I am God. So that's what it says. Bhagavan says, quieten the mind and purifying your thoughts. So initially there may be rajasic thoughts. There may be tamasic thoughts. Then there may be sattvic thoughts. And then what happens? Like Bhagavan, like what Nandakumar read beautifully, Bhagavan Trigunatita is beyond the rajasic, tamasic and sattvic qualities. Is Trigunatita is beyond all that. So we should also aim to do that. And keep on inquiring what happens, even if you've got the most holiest thoughts. And Bhagavan, there also you have to transcend that. As they say, even if Bhagavan comes in front of you in flesh and blood, do namaskara and ask him to show his real swarupa, which is within you. That's what you must ask for. Because what happens, that rupa which comes in front of you is going to vanish one day. Or the next moment, that rupa will vanish. So we have to be able to go within and be established in the self. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana.
Thanks.
We will now have the sharing of Ramana Ashtottaram, Manana on Sri Ramana Ashtottaram by Dr. Sarada.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, in this part of the Satsang, we are meditating on the namas, or the names, the 108 names given to Bhagavan, or culled from the many attributes of Bhagavan by Vishwanatha Swami and strung together as a Shatanama Stotram. We are meditating on the Ashtottara, and we are at this moment meditating on the Nama Veda Vedanta Tattvajnaya Namaha. Just 1 second. I'm sorry about that. So we are meditating on the Nama Veda Vedanta Tattvajnaya Namaha, which means that Bhagavan is the knower of the truth, the Tattva of Veda and Vedanta. Now, what is the implication of this Nama for us? The implication of this Nama is that we need not go to the Veda or the Vedanta necessarily. It is enough for us if we meditate on the words of Bhagavan, because they are authoritative, because they are the truth contained in the Veda and the Vedanta. Last time we looked at Satyamangalam Venkatramayya's praise of Bhagavan, Veda Nayak and Veda Bhushan and Veda Me Uruvayavan. And Sri Nochur Venkatraman says Veda or Upanishad means self-awareness. Upanishad means self-abidance, staying close to the self. Upanishad. So, this is the awareness which is there in Bhagavan automatically. It came spontaneously for him. The truth was known by him spontaneously as a boy of 16, when he faced the fear of death and enacted intensely the scene of death. And then he knew once and for all that he is the deathless spirit, which he later refers to as the self. Thus the self is all pervading, the self is the essence. In the last verse of Anubandham also, Bhagavan says that self-abidance is the essence of all scriptures. Self-abidance alone is the essence of all scriptures. So, Bhagavan gives us this essence. What is the tattva of the Vedas? What is the tattva of Vedanta, the end of the Vedas, the pinnacle of the Vedas? And it is self-abidance. And Bhagavan, remaining in that state, shows the glory of that state to us every moment in his life. Every moment we can, we can take if we take a cake, sometimes the cake may have layers. It may have one layer of cream, one layer of fruit, one layer of something as the cake itself. And sometimes when we cut some parts of it, we may get one, we may not get the other. But if you cut across the life of Bhagavan, if you dissect it at any point, in any manner, what you will get is the glory of Atmanishta. You will get that beautiful experience. We will see that in him, that beautiful, glorious Atmanishta. And what does he give us as the core? He says, Atmanishto bhavatvam. Become Atmanishta. That is the essence. Ahamapetakam nijavibhanakam maharidam tapo ramanavadhiyam. Says Bhagavan, Muruganar Swami says that in the concluding verse to Upadesa Saram. So this is the greatest tapas. What is the great tapas? The destruction of the ego and the shining of the self. That is the tattva of Veda and Vedanta. So if we cannot wade through the Vedas, last time we also looked at the story of Roma Maharishi, who had to go through so many millions of years, he could not finish his study even of one of the Vedas. And he wanted to completely keep on studying. So many millions of years. But what the great gods showed to him was that he is like an ant, which is a gigantic ant maybe, but which is shifting sugar from one place to another, to its own home, but it's not tasting even one grain of sugar. So what does Bhagavan tell us? Bhagavan says we must taste the truth here and now. Atma Vichara is about tasting, about experiencing the truth here and now. That's what Bhagavan says. Atma Vichara really starts when one is off the mental movements, says Bhagavan. So long as the thoughts are there, one is caught up in the image of I am so and so. So when one inquires for whom are these thoughts, the answer comes, they are for me. And then the question comes, who is this I who is claiming that I am having all these thoughts? Who is this I? If I say they are my thoughts, then who must I be to have these thoughts? If I say they are my experiences, mental experiences, who must I be to have these experiences? Have I ever paid attention to that? Have we paid attention to that? Do we pay attention to that? In our day-to-day experiences, daily experiences, we are just getting carried away in a flood of experiences. In that flood of experiences, do we pause to question, for whom are these thoughts? For whom are these experiences? Who experiences pain? Who experiences comfort? Who experiences sorrow? Who experiences joy? Who is that I? Who is that I? After all these experiences are happening only within us, are they not? They're happening within us. All the experiences which each one of us undergo, whether it is physical pain or comfort or mental pain or comfort, where is it happening? It is not happening out there. It is happening in here, inside. Inside us is where we experience it. So we are not in a position to even often explain it to others. Others may or may not understand this experience of ours because it is so very internal to us. So within us, who is the person? Who is the entity within us? Who is that I within us who is experiencing all this? Bhagavan says, find that I. Find out. Ask yourself, find out. And that is the way he gives this essence, Veda, Vedanta, Tattva, Jnaya. He knows it. So we need not worry. When Bhagavan gives us any one word, we can take Bhagavan's any one word. We can take the first verse of Upadesa Saram. We can take the second verse of Upadesa Saram. We can take one verse from Ulladu Narpadu. Or we can take one verse from Ulladu Narpadu Anubandham. Or we can take one verse from Anmabodham. Or we can take one verse from one in discussion of his in the talks or in day by day or in letters. And if we take even one such phrase from Bhagavan, what will it contain? It will contain always the essence or the truth of the Vedas and the Vedanta. And we need not go further. We need not search anywhere else. Our search has ended. That is what Vishwanatha Swami is trying to tell us through this Nama, that we can have complete faith in Bhagavan's Upadesha because he is the knower of Vedas. He is the knower of Vedanta. Of course, this was established by various seekers of truth in their experiences and interchanges with Bhagavan, be it Gambiram Sheshayar or be it Parni Swami right in the beginning who brought him Adhyatma Ramayanam, or be it the Muni later. Whoever had any exchange with Bhagavan would know that he is the essence of the scripture and he knows the scripture. He knows it in and out. Because why? Because he is the very embodiment of that. Because he has come to re-establish the glory of Veda and Vedanta. This is also one of the aspects that we could meditate on, that if at all that glory was dimming, the glory of the Vedas were dimming, if the glory of the Vedanta was dimming, here Bhagavan has come to re-establish it. Muni says in Chatvarimshat, which has been earlier dwelt upon by Ujwal Jagadeesh as well, Duram yahi kuvada dharma vrishato netah param panguta. He says, Duram yahi kuvada dharma vrishato. There is no more room for any vain discussions. Again, in the praise of Mother Alagamma, Muni says, Kuvadanam duri karanaya satyasya avedanaya cha shishuve. So, tasye sundara priyaye saundaryambaye namaha. Prostrations to that Saundaryamba, whose child has come for what? Lokasya hitaya, for the good of the world. Avidya andhakara panodanaya, to destroy the darkness of ignorance. And is that not the essence of the Veda, which says asatoma sadgamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritangamaya. So amritangamaya, to take us towards immortality beyond the frontiers of death. That is the purpose of the Veda. That is the purpose of Vedanta. Swami Vivekananda said, Shunvanti sarva amritasya putraha, O children of immortality. So that immortality, to give us the taste of our own true nature, which is immortality, that amrita, that bliss of immortality, Bhagavan has become embodied as the Veda Purusha, as the very essence of the Veda, which he says is Arunachala also. Bhagavan says, Vedantatte Verara Vilangum Veda Porul Arul Arunachala. He says, he's praying to Arunachala, please bless me with the essence of the Vedas, Veda Purul. So when Arunachala is asked what happens, Arunachala is bound to give. See, Guhai Namah Shivaya, Guru Namah Shivaya says, Yeded Ketalum Kodai Padamal Kodukumalai. So whatever is asked of Arunachala, this also we dwelt on last time. Arunachala is bound to give. So when Bhagavan is asked for Veda Purul, Arunachala is bound to give when? Keladadikun. So already Bhagavan was given the Veda Purul. So Bhagavan is saying, you are the one who graces the Veda Purul. Veda Purul Arul Arunachala. You are the one who gives the grace of the Veda Purul. O Arunachala, because you are the very embodiment of Vedanta. And having given him the experience, then Arunachala drew him to itself to reveal that truth to every one of us. And that's why Vishwanatha Swami says, here it is. In Muruganar Swami also says, come, drink of this. Drink of this. Arunaithannil amudam vandutrathu. Maranavadhanai matra. Ramanan endru arunaithannil amudam vandutrathu. It has come to destroy death. Immortality, the supreme bliss of immortality has come in the form of Ramana. Come, drink your fill and live to be immortal, says Muruganar Swami. And that's why Vishwanath Swami very compassionately makes us dwell on this Nama of Bhagavan. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri
Namo Ramana. We will now have the chanting of Aksharamanamalai by Srimati V. Radha.
Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala. Arunachalamena ahame ninaippavarahathai verarupai Arunachala. அழகு சுந்தரம் போலகமும் நீயுமுற்ற அபிநமாயிருப்போம் அருணாச்சலா. அகம் போகும் தீர்த்துன் அகுகை சிறையான் அமர்வித்ததென் கொல் அருணாச்சலா. ஆரெக்காவென்னை ஆண்டனை அகற்றிடில் அகிலம் பழித்திடும் அருணாச்சலாம். இப்பழி தப்புன ஏனினை பித்தாயினி யார் விடுவார் அருணாச்சலாம். ஈன்றிடும் மன்னையிற் பெரிதருள் புரிவோய் இதுவோ உனதருள் அருணாச்சலாம். உனையே மாற்றி ஓடாதுள்ளத்தின் மேல் உறுதியாயிருப்பாய் அருணாச்சலா. ஊர் சுற்றுளம் விடாதுன்னை கண்டடங்கிட உன்னழகை காட்டருணாச்சலா. என்னை அழித்திப்போதென்னை கலவாவிடில் இதுவோ ஆண்மை அருணாச்சலாம். ஏன் இந்த ஊரக்கம் என்னை பிறர் இழுக்க இது உனக்கழகோ அருணாச்சலாம். ஐம்புல கள்வர் அகத்தினில் புகும்போது அகத்தில் நீ இல்லையோ அருணாச்சலாம். ஒருவனாம் உன்னை ஒழித்தவர் வருவார் உன் சோதே இது அருணாச்சலாம். அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. 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 அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சல சிவ அருணாச்சலா. அருணாச்சலம் வாழி அன்பர்களும் வாழி. அக்ஷரமணம் Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. We will conclude today's satsang with the Ashtottara puja to Bhagavan. The puja will happen at Sri Dileep Simha's altar. The Ashtottara will be chanted by Revathi Sankar, Uma, and the Arati song will be sung by Dr. Pratibha Sundaresh. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामावली अपार सच्चित्सुखवारिराशेः यस्योर्मिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ॐ महासेनमहोंशेन जाताय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः। ॐ गुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः। ॐ महौजसे नमः। ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः। ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः। ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः। ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः। ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजदचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्यनिभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराज्ये नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः।
ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्री शोणाचलहृद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ हृच्चान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणात्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणाद्रीशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः।
ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्री अष्टोत्तरशतनाम पूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थाणोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्या जनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रह सुप्रवाह विवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः हृन्निष्ठस्वगभीर नित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनास्येकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावर्ण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संगिये सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिवप्रभावर्ण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಯೇ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೂಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಗಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರ್ಣ ನಮೋ महर्षि नमो महर्षि बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की
जय।